You may have heard, or you may not have heard, but Biden is looking at spending an additional $3 to $4 trillion. This time, it's going to be focused primarily on infrastructure improvements, but there's some other things in there along the way. But of course, in order to do that, he's going to have to raise taxes.
Gosh.
Where's all your money gone, Donnie?
Taxes.
And one of the ways he's proposing to raise taxes is to tax each driver in the United States for every single mile they drive. He's calling it a VMT tax, or vehicle mileage tax, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. My name is Mike the CPA, and welcome to Money and Life TV, where we teach finances, investing, and taxes. It would mean so much to me if you guys can help other people see this video. You can do that just simply by leaving a like, engage in the comments, or simply just sharing this video with others. Lastly, you can follow our weekly videos simply by hitting that red subscribe button down below. Okay, let's start with the why part of this bill before we get into the vehicle mileage tax, which is the what or the how part of how he's going to fund this. It says President Biden said Thursday that he will travel to Pittsburgh next week to announce details of his multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure bill, a sweeping measure that's expected to include funds for roads and bridges, as well as address issues like climate change and income inequality. It says the next major initiative and I'll be announcing Friday in Pittsburgh in detail, is to rebuild the infrastructure, both the physical and technological infrastructure of this country, so that we can compete and create significant numbers of really good paying jobs, Biden said during his first official White House press conference. Of course, Janet Yellen says in order to fund this, the taxes are going to have to be raised. Now, if you remember when Biden was campaigning, he was going to raise taxes in a number of ways. One was to tax corporations and raise that corporate tax rate from 21% up to 28%. He was going to tax people or individuals who made more than $400,000 a year. He was going to tax capital gains at a higher rate if you made more than $1 million a year. And he was also going to do a number of things with estate taxes to raise funds for this proposed bill, or for whatever spending measures he has coming down the pipeline. Now, what I do not recall him mentioning, and I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not recall hearing about a vehicle mileage tax. So this is a new thing to me that I'm just starting to hear. And he wants to introduce this federally, meaning it doesn't matter what state you live in, this would apply to you if you drive. Whether you drive a little bit if you're retired, or whether you drive to and from work every single day. And so I just want to read a few things with you here and just share my thoughts as we close or wrap this up. So there's a growing acceptance among federal lawmakers for a road user fee to fund highway repairs, but how would it work and who would end up paying it is unclear. So, of course, it says why it matters. The Highway Trust Fund, which pays for roads and transit systems, is going broke. The existing federal gas tax isn't enough to meet rising costs, and the budget gap will only grow wider as cleaner cars burn less fuel. It says electric cars don't even need gas, which is why finding an alternative to the current 18.4 cent gallon or per gallon fuel tax is inevitable. It says the big picture is Biden is getting set to unveil a $3 trillion economic package that will include spending on everything from highways, bridges, railroads to broadband networks and electric vehicle charging stations. Biden's transportation secretary is Pete Buttigieg, if I'm saying that right, told lawmakers that the moment offers the best chance in any of our lifetimes to make a generational investment in infrastructure, and that climate change must be addressed. Now, what the article goes on to state is that neither Republican or Democrats want to raise gas taxes even more. Now, I live in California. We have some of the highest gas taxes in the nation already. I can't imagine them raising it even more than it already is. Now, my question is, and where I'm skeptical on this, is our country, it is flat out broke. It is broke beyond broke in so many ways beyond financially, but I'm not going to get into that. But I can't imagine them, if they're going to use this new vehicle mileage tax that they're proposing, I can't imagine that they would be able to afford cutting back the gas tax. Do you know what I mean? I have a feeling it would be that, what it currently is, plus this in addition. And with a lot of people working from home now, a lot of people aren't needing to go into the office. They're not driving as much. The other thing the article talks about is electric vehicles cutting into the revenue of the gas tax, because obviously electric vehicles don't use as much gas, if any at all. Now, I did some research, and what I found is that less than 5% of the auto sales, at least in the US, represent electric vehicles. That means when you and I, we're driving on the road, we're driving to work, we're driving to the store, wherever we're trying to go, we are looking at gas-powered vehicles. Most of the vehicles are still gas-powered. Now, eventually, I do think that will change because I think they're going to slowly push and eventually enforce people to own electric vehicles, hands down. I think that is the future. I think that will eventually happen. But for right now, that is not eating too much into their gas tax, as this article says. Now, the thing that a lot of the articles failed to mention, at least the ones I saw, is it doesn't mention anywhere about people who are unemployed and no longer even needing to drive to go to work because they have no job to go to. What about those people? How many people are realistically right now unemployed in America? I don't know, but that is another factor. The thing is, though, is that people's habits are changing and businesses are changing with seeing that, okay, maybe we do have the technology where people can just work from home. But, of course, not everybody is able to do that. I personally am not able to do that. Okay, how it works, ladies and gentlemen. It says, under a VMT system, drivers would report their mileage electronically using a plug-in device in their cars or a smartphone app. But it says, but forcing drivers to insert a transponder in their car raises worries about Big Brother tactics. Commercial trucks already track their mileage, so VMT supporters say that's a natural place, along with ride-sharing fleets, to begin the new user fees. Not surprising, though, that the American Trucking Association objects. So how would you feel, personally, in the comments, let me know, how would you feel about you sticking a transponder in your car so the government can always track how much your mileage you're driving for reporting this tax? This is what they're thinking of doing. They're piloting this already, to my understanding, in Oregon and then Utah as we speak, seeing how this works. Now, in those states, I believe you can get a credit against the gas tax you pay to balance the fees. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if this would be true with this, though. I don't know if you would get a credit on the gas tax if you're reporting your mileage. Now, from what I saw, and it's somewhere in this article, but I'll just talk to you guys here on camera, is that it's going to be about 1 cent to 2 cents per mile is what they're proposing. And so I ran some numbers. So if you're driving now about 10,000 miles per year is what the average American drives, is 10,000 miles per year. 1 cent per mile is about $100 a year, or basically $8 a month. And of course, if it's 2 cents per mile, you can figure out that's about $200 a year, or closer to $16 to $20 a month. In California, for example, where I live, the average person drives 15,000 miles a year, so that makes it about $25 per month if you break it down, that fee on a monthly basis. So that's what we're looking at. Won't break the bank, but it's still, how many people are having hard time finding employment right now because of the pandemic, and how likely right now is your employer going to give you a raise? Probably not very likely, considering a lot of businesses are closing their doors and they can hold that leverage over you, saying, well, you still have a job, but so just be grateful for what you have. And so even if it's just a small amount, if we have all these little increase in taxes every which way, then it adds up to a substantial amount. Now, if you went out there and bought an electric vehicle, you're saying, I'm going green, I'm going to be good for the environment. This is kind of a slap in the face to you, because instead of being rewarded for being good for the environment, they're making sure you're getting taxed still, since you're not buying gas. So yes, you're saving money on gas, but they want to make sure you're still paying tax. What I don't like about this is this really punishes people who do have to go to work. Now, there's a lot of people who are working from home. I get that. But there's a lot of people who cannot work from home. And this is not an incentive for them to work, honestly. This is another example where it supports those who don't have to work or can't work or whatever. Fine, but it does. If you're punished for going to and from work, unless you can find other means of transportation. As I mentioned previously in the video, this might run you another $10, $20 a month, probably on a monthly basis, depending upon how much you drive. But stop and think, though, for a second. Think of all the commercial transportation, all the things they ship. Where do you think they're going to pass this extra cost along to? To them, if I'm a business and I'm shipping things across the country, whether by railroad, by vehicle, whatever, by truck, then I'm going to think this is just part of our freight and shipping cost. And I'm thinking, if I'm the business owner, I'm probably going to try to pass along as much as that cost as I can to the wholesaler or to the customer so that I don't have to eat the entire fee. So the way I think about this is this could, and I think likely would, affect, even though it's so small, it probably will raise food prices or other costs of goods because everything is now going to cost more to ship than it did before. So I understand the need to fix the roads, but if we don't get a fair credit on the fuel tax in relationship to this, taxing us based on mileage, then I don't know if it's a good deal or if I can fully agree with it. Now this tax, the vehicle mileage tax, of course, in my opinion, what is this? This is a consumption tax, which basically states that the more you consume something, the more you should pay for something. Or the less you consume something, the less you use, the less you should pay for something. Now, do you know who is a big proponent of consumption-based taxes? It's Bill Gates. Bill Gates likes the idea of taxing people not so much on their income, but more on their individual consumption of how much they use something, which I think in a lot of ways that does make sense. The more you use something, the more you consume, maybe the more you pay. But of course, if part of my brain still works, a little part of it, and part of my brain says, well, of course Bill Gates would favor a consumption tax to get the government away from his income because he makes so much freaking money. He would pay way less tax if more taxes were based on consumption than income. Very good, Bill Gates. I see what you're doing here. I see what you're doing. But I'll leave a link to that video down in the description section of this video if you want to check it out. It's a video that was posted back in 2014, and you can learn a little bit more about consumption taxes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is where I'm gonna wrap up the video, but now it's time to hear from you. What do you think about the vehicle mileage tax? Do you like the idea of paying a consumption-based tax rather than like an increased gas tax, for example? Also, how do you feel about having a transponder installed in your car that tracks your every mile? Do you feel that's an invasion of privacy, or do you not care either way as long as it helps the environment and helps rebuild American infrastructure like roads, bridges, and things like that? Leave your comments, your thoughts down below. That's where I'll see you. Have a wonderful week. I'm gonna go enjoy the rest of the weekend, and I'll see you in the next video. Live life uncaged, and take care, everybody. Peace.